This episode of the Totally Rad Show is brought to you by Jack Threads. Coming up, Steven Spielberg brings us another film this year. This time it's about a horse, a war horse.
Today in movies, we're talking about War Horse. Now, this movie is based on a book and a play.
And
is directed...
Michael Bublé.
Right. And it is directed by Steven Spielberg. I'm sure many of you are already aware of this. And it's essentially the tale of a horse from birth on as it goes on an adventure through World War I. Wait
a minute, you're saying it's about war and a horse.
Yes.
If only that was evident from the title.
I know, really mismarketed this one.
Yeah.
But what it is even more so is kind of vignettes, little short stories, sort of like, it's like Forrest Gump with a horse, you could say, in a silly way. Of course,
it's actually like Red Violin with a horse.
Yeah, it's
the
like
horse is the violin going in and out of different people's
Wasn't there a
lives.
movie in the 90s that was about like a dollar bill? And you followed the dollar bill.
No, that was my idea.
I think there was actually a movie that was made about that.
That was my idea in high school. I was telling everyone at dinner one night.
It was.
Yeah.
I remember your idea from high school. It was very good. All right, but anyway,
like,
War
that
Horse.
was made that
No,
guy.
it was called dollar sign. That was my idea in high school. And that was in the 90s.
So solid.
Anyway.
All right, anyway.
So that's War Horse.
Yeah.
Jeff.
Yeah.
What did you think of War Horse?
I was massively disappointed by War Horse. I'm very excited anytime a Steven Spielberg movie comes along. It is cause for excitement, and of course he's done. Saving Private Ryan is one of the seminal war films I think of all time, and I had heard such wonderful things about this story. I was not familiar with the play nor the book, but it's a stirring idea. There was very little about this movie that I enjoyed, and all of what I loved. And it is very much war and a horse, and the stuff I liked was the war stuff. There's some phenomenal war stuff portrayed on screen, and
Just when they start horsing around.
the horse stuff, however, feels like it was ripped out of a magical world of Disney film like I grew up with. Like my sister was obsessed with when we were kids, like the horse in the gray flannel suit. And
Horse in the gray flannel.
you ever heard of that?
Clearly not.
One of my sister's favorite movies, and there's a bunch of those like wonderful world of Disney sort of cheesy anthropomorphic animal films where the animal decides to makes decisions and acts in a way that has human characteristics like the horse does in this movie at every turn, and I found so preposterous and so off-putting. Like the horse volunteers to do things because it wants to save somebody else. Like, no, come on. And I found all those moments to be so sappy and contrived. I felt this movie could have been titled Sentimentality the Film, and I felt like all of those things that people criticize Spielberg for example, in Saving Private Ryan, like the bookends that I don't have a problem with, and I rarely have a problem with when he does them. Here it is so front and center and so in your face and so pervasive that I couldn't help but feel like I cared nothing for any of these people. I didn't care for that horse. Honestly, and I feel like total Scrooge. I am, me, guys, and
You love horses.
Well,
you always say that.
I cry at the drop of a hat in films. I'm a totally sentimental, emotional guy when it comes to story, and I'm I make no bones about the fact that I'm a wuss, and I expected to be bawling my eyes out. I did not feel emotion in any moment in this movie. I
did not feel emotion.
I didn't. I felt like it was being rammed down my throat. There is some spectacular photography. There are shots that I kept sitting there going, how did they get this? Especially when it's a horse with no rider doing incredibly well choreographed, long take. Like, how did they get this horse to do this?
I think some of it
A lot of it is
was
CG.
CG, but But
regardless
it's
of that
interesting.
fact, there's
Yeah.
some visually stunning things, but there's a lot that visually is like, what? This feels small and on a green screen and really, like the whole beginning of the film feels really cheap to me. And you guys may disagree, but
I don't remember what the beginning of the movie was.
the whole
Babe.
the whole
Live action Babe.
until
Cave
we
in
go
the
off to war, this movie I
not
feel
really,
is treading
'cause
water.
it's interesting-
And I like the kid talking earnestly to the horse and having this earnest connection with the horse. I just that's not a movie for. It's just not my wheelhouse at all. Maybe it's people who have pets or I don't know.
Would you consider yourself an animal person or not an animal person? Okay.
Of course. But I found this to be so blatant in its like manipulation. Like an animal doesn't behave in that way, and it's not some super animal that decide.
I'm sorry,
But-
it's a miracle horse.
It is a miracle horse, and all of that stuff about like I knew it was this horse because it's the miracle horse. What?
Okay.
I don't.
Well, here's the thing.
I want to say something because you choose the word anthropomorphic and you said babe, and what's interesting that the
I said babe
book
because
and
of the geese,
Right,
the swan,
but the book,
the goose.
either the book or the play, I'm not sure which one, or maybe both. It is actually the horse has a voice and speaks.
Interesting.
And so it was a conscious decision to
Yeah.
not do that in this movie.
Interesting. Good choice.
Wow.
Good choice.
Well, maybe that
here-
would have felt
I wonder
different.
if-
Well, I'm gonna say that
Yeah.
I disagree with you on a lot of that stuff, but I do agree with you on the bookends. And my biggest concern with this movie was the beginning 20 minutes of this movie, where they set up the boy's relationship with this horse, is in and of itself a good 2-hour movie. They had to do that in 20 minutes so that you would have this connection, you would understand the connection, and then they could get along with the movie, which was World War I, the different vignettes and the stories. When this movie was going from the beginning, I was like, oh my God, this is all schlock. It's all the moments of Black Stallion,
Yeah, Black Stallion.
but none of the side stuff that makes those moments less saccharine.
Yes.
It's just saccharine sweet, saccharine sweet, saccharine sweet. Like the moment he finds the horse, and then now it's his horse. Now it's doing that magical thing that it could do to save the farm. Oh, but now it's given away. You know what I mean? But they have to get past, and I was worried the whole movie was going to be like that, and the whole movie wasn't like that to me. And the rest of the movie was a really great movie, in my opinion, that I was totally invested in, totally connected to. Really had a great emotional ride along with this horse and how it's coming in and out of people's lives and people coming back, and all of that stuff was really, really great for me. I wish I didn't have to see that 20 minutes in order to be that invested in this movie, but you kind of have to, so I kind of get it. But also, the very, very end was, man, I mean, it was so on the nose, like the very end vignette, you know what I mean? Like the tableau at the end with no talking, and it's sort of like on green screen with the red, was so on the nose. It was just like, oh God.
It's Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, but it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, the handshakes and I was just like, boy, all of this feels so bad, especially because this movie that I've seen, the middle part of this movie, from like 20 minutes to the last 5 minutes, I loved. And I mean, really, if I could get rid of those things, the problem is you can't get rid of those things and still be invested in this horse in the same way. And I think that comes from the fact that it was a book, and that they, reading that as the first couple chapters, the first 100 pages, and then finding this adventure would have blown my mind. But it's shot beautifully. There's some great ideas in this movie. They always talk about the trench warfare in World War II, and there's the whole big, like, the soccer match that broke out on Christmas Day one year, and all these great stories of how there were times when they actually came together, even though they were sitting on either side to kill each other. And it has a really, almost the perfect explanation, the perfect slice of that happens in this movie, and man, did it hit me. That scene was like, I mean, people cheered for that scene. You know what I mean? In my
It's a
screening.
showstopper.
It's a showstopper.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of great movie in here for me. You kind of just got to give it the first 20 minutes and forget the last 5. But in doing so, great movie.
I see where you guys are all coming from. I have some shared issues. I really did love War Horse, or I really, really, really liked it.
Yeah.
For me, first of all, I thought beautifully shot, oftentimes very unique cinematography, sometimes not so much. What I really appreciated was I could count on my hands the amount of times I've seen World War I portrayed on screen, and it was really refreshing to see World War I, not World War II, not any other modern war. World War I, trench warfare. Gallipoli is like the only Gallipoli and Blackadder Goes Forth are the World War I movies. Trench war, and this really, the way that Spielberg dissected World War II, the storming the beach in Normandy. And all those details, he does that, and he's the first guy to say this isn't a war movie, and it's not. But that vignette,
it's a horse movie.
That vignette is really striking. I loved all of that stuff. I didn't have as much of a problem with the
opening.
I didn't. I would have not liked all the saccharine. I would have felt the saccharine if there weren't great moments like there's a character that always refers to things in days. Some days are good, some days the rest of the day. But I love that more poetic.
There were definitely lines. That's what I mean by
there's
good
really
ideas,
wonderful
those
writing
lines,
in that.
I would tell people those lines as a life statement.
And it's funny that you came at it from you didn't like that the horse was and I think that's a little bit of that's White Fang, that's Black Stallion. That's a little bit of a give on the genre. But what did rub me the wrong way, and I wonder if it's what may have affected you without putting, and you haven't verbalized this, is that we're such a savvy culture now with shows like The Dog Whisperer or any of these animal shows. We know how you interact with animals, and talking to them as if they're people
is the exact opposite.
Won't elicit what movie? Water for Elephants had a very, I thought, appropriate take on humans' interaction with elephants. And there was that moment where he spoke in Polish to them. Maybe that's a spoiler for Water for Elephants, but right? In fact, it is. Whatever.
Not really.
But like
a moment for one moment where they're
and then they bond as animals because that was.
He knows the command.
But it's a command.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's different.
And you can still have White Fang and all those things is the characters kind of talking to himself. He's talking to the dog, but he's kind of like talking to himself. And then the dog, you can tell that there's something he's doing that the dog is responding to. There's just a laser fine way of communicating that. And this, perhaps because the source material was anthropomorphized animal that you could hear the animal's thoughts or whatever, missed the mark, and it made it feel a little bit too supernatural. And we are so savvy now. And,
I will say, in the trailer, there's a moment where the warhorse jumps over a tank, and in the trailer, it's like, oh, this is a movie called Super Horse, Man, War Machine. Like, it's so crappy in the trailer, but in the movie when it happened, totally bought it.
Yeah, I didn't find there to be that much supernatural horse stuff.
Yeah, no.
Or it's just a couple nudges here and there that are a little like, it's not really right. It's not really.
Still a good
movie. So I really enjoyed it, and it definitely just seeing World War I in this way is.
There are some amazing moments of World War I. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. War Horse.
Gallop on. All right, everybody, stick around. We're going to be answering one of your Twitter questions right after this. But first, we want to thank our sponsors, Jeff Cannata.
Well, perhaps people have heard me talking about the Jack Threads.
I've heard you talking about the Jack Threads.
The Jack Threads and I have united in a common goal.
Which is?
Destroying suckers.
Okay. So you've got your phasers set to de-suckering?
You have to de-sucker the world.
Yeah.
The world is being suckered, and you need to de-sucker the world. How? Let's define our terms. What is a sucker? A sucker is an individual, a human being, a person who, when shopping for apparel, clothes, wardrobe, pays full price.
Oh,
now, that is not something I want to experience. I don't think you want to experience it. I don't think you want to experience it. Wait a minute.
hate it.
I think you have experienced it.
I have
You know
not.
why? Because every time you walk through that door, a little bell inside my head goes off, and you know what it sounds like? Ring-a-ding sucker!
That's what I've been hearing. I wonder what that was.
That's the
It's
sucker
almost
bell.
as if you didn't know what the sound of the bell sounded like until you had just said it.
Yeah.
Just right there.
Ring-a-ding sucker. I hear it all the day. I hear it every day these guys walk through the
hear
door.
it
You know
all the
why?
day.
Because they are not cool enough to be members of Jack Threads. Jack Threads is a members-only club. That means exclusive. That means you and me and not these guys, not these suckers, not suckers. You walk through your life and you see suckers, they're not part of the club. How do you become part of the club? Well, if you stick with me, you can get behind the velvet rope.
Ooh.
Right this way, sir. Into the Jack Threads Club, where you can get up to 80% off sweet, kick-ass brands. Stuff like Kid Robot, Stussy, Calvin Klein, awesome threads that you want to jack onto your body. Jack Threads. Go to jackthreads.com/TRS. You'll get behind that velvet rope. You'll be ushered into this secret awesome club that Dan and Alex can't be a part of. If you go to jackthreads.com/TRS, you won't hear the ring-a-ding sucker bell. Avoid it.
You'll hear the ding ding, not a sucker.
Well, it's more of a jangle. It's
All
the jangle
right.
of walking through past the.
I love it. Awesome. Check it out, jackthreads.com/TRS. We'll see you later.
Join us tomorrow for our review of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Today's Twitter question was sent in from @Byernesque. He asks, what character scared you as a child?
Ooh. Mine's not a character, but it's an anthropomorphized tree. The tree from Poltergeist scared the crap out of me.
My sister as well.
Oh!
My
The
little
tree!
sister.
Because guess what?
Older-
Everybody's window has trees outside.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody
Sure.
has creepy clown dolls.
Speaking of
I'm
clowns,
just saying.
Stephen King's It,
Oh, yeah,
Tim
yeah.
Curry as It. Or no, what was his name for it? What was his
No,
name?
it's called It. Oh no, Pennywise.
Pennywise, yeah.
Absolutely terrified me.
Yeah,
Terrified
agreed.
me.
That's funny, because I read the book when I was a kid. Never saw any of the film versions.
Now
it's
it's no
scary.
good, but back then it was terrifying.
The first thing that popped into my head about this was my parents tell a story when I was really young, I don't know, 4 or 5, them taking me to Universal Studios.
Ooh.
And I saw what sounds like a crazy, weird show, live show, which was The Incredible Hulk against Frankenstein and the monsters of the movies, like the Mummy and Wolfman and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, bizarre. I was a huge fan of the Hulk as a little kid, and still am. And evidently at the end, you had to like shuffle out and walk by the stage, and I was in my dad's arms. Or no, I think I was holding his hand or something. And the guy who played Igor comes bounding down from the upstage to downstage to the very edge of the stage and goes "Roar!" to me, and I was out of there.
Oh my
Gone.
God.
Just running
Amazing.
through Universal Studios.
Amazing.
Terrified
Into the car.
by Igor was the
Yeah.
most frightening
Amazing.
thing. And the Hulk was not there to save me.
Hilarious.
Awesome.